Spider-Man No Way Home, an upcoming movie that is taking the world by storm with rumored appearances from pretty much everyone you can think of. And one huge rumor out there is that Charlie Cox will be returning as Matt Murdock in this movie. People have been scouring through leaks and rumors to see if he'd be in this movie, and I'd frankly had enough. So I decided the only way I could know for sure is if I decided to do the impossible, to meet Charlie Cox, Daredevil, and ask him myself. And that is exactly what I did. So I was just on my PC when I found out this on Twitter. Daredevil himself, Charlie Cox, joins us at MCM Comic Con. This is the perfect opportunity to go ask him, because I could literally meet him in real life and ask him about the movie. So I've just bought my tickets. I'm going to London. This is a good friend of the channel, Swanee, who will be coming to Comic Con with us today. Here we have Spider-Man, Swan Man. And then we finally arrived. So many people. Yo. Hey, yo, is that Swanee in the building? Oh, yeah, in the Comic Con. I'm cosplaying. Or are we cosplaying? Yo, he's going to the toilet as well. Oh my god. Here we have Spider-Man. You got the costume here too, but he's not rich enough to wear that.
All the girls are gonna love me. I'm British and Spider-Man. Almost Tom Holland.
This is the new Spider-Man No Way Home set leak. Wait, Spider-Man, look what I got you, your suit.
Oh, thanks.
The new Spider-Man was so short. So short. You look how tall I am in comparison to you. It's a me, a Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home leak. Raimi Spider-Man.
Why is it dodgiest costume? And then I still for a selfie. Why is these
Now that we'd explored Comic-Con, it was time for the Daredevil panel to begin.
We're about to meet Charlie Cox.
We were sitting in the queue for about half an hour waiting to be let in when finally... we were in. What is that?
Any Daredevil fans in the room? The show where a guy gets beat up for 3 seasons.
And now it was time for Charlie Cox and Deborah Ann Woll to enter the stage. Then he started getting asked about Daredevil returning to the MCU. He gets insane with tons of info about the return of Daredevil, so get ready. And by the way, if you take any of the clips from this video and post them, make sure you link this video as the source.
Bring your character back. If your character came back, where would you like to see him go? How would you like to see him develop?
Yeah, great question. The funny thing, you can't say anything, and also all of the guys I've met this weekend, no one's actually asked me. They've just said, "I know." So I'm like, well,
That's quite intimidating.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, a lot of time has passed. So, God knows if anything can happen for us in the future. I really don't know. And obviously, if something were to happen, that would be thrilling. But because enough time has passed, it would. I imagine it would have to be a kind of reimagining. And assuming they choose to use us, it would be an interesting scenario because it would be a reimagining, but with the same foundation. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what it would look like. I know that there's so many great storylines to tell. We never really got into the bullseye stuff. There's an unfinished history with Karen and Matt that we got to almost get there in season 2.
Nelson Murdoch and
yeah, no, exactly.
that is the future.
There's a lot of stuff that we'd like to, loose ends we'd like to tie up. But having said all of that, I'm really proud of what we did, and we ended on a high, and I'd rather that than just because there is a huge fan base to run it into the ground and end up kind of, we've made 60 plus hours, and at some point you start to run out of ideas. Everyone does, and what you don't want to do is suddenly end up with a 4th bad season that didn't really work and too much time passed, and everyone's like, Charlie Cox is in his 60s now, why is he playing that? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Just going back to what we said about ending Daredevil on a high note. In your opinion, do you guys really think we should continue Daredevil in the MCU fashion? Because you've got multiverses and galactic threats and all that. Do you really think Daredevil characters would fit in that universe?
The only thing I say is, based on what's coming out on Disney Plus, based on the shows that I'm watching, WandaVision, Loki, Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're so brilliant, and they've been completely reimagined. Loki just blew my mind. I couldn't believe how interesting and different that was, and so I would be interested to see what they want to do with it. You know what I mean? Why not hear them out?
I think when I think of Karen, I think of scrappy, unapologetic, gonna get the story, gonna get the truth. So yeah, I loved that idea, and I like the idea that, you know, if we have more fists, more of these sort of big tyrants that she can look into, because, you know, Daredevil can use his fists, but Karen gets to use her pen. I would love to see that kind of strengthen and continue in that direction.
If they were to go to the MCU, which characters within the MCU you think work best for characters for the most important story?
Karen could work for, you know, like the Avengers and stuff. You know, I'd go out and get information and bring it back, and just you're like maybe mingling with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. It could be like a investigator for hire for S.H.I.E.L.D. going undercover, things like that. Oh, I like that. What about you?
Daredevil was an Avenger in the comics. On top of all of that, I also want a massive shout out to the Save Daredevil people. For those of you who don't know, there's a wonderful group of people who wear red t-shirts called Save Daredevil, and they paid for a billboard in Times Square to try and get our show back, and you know, it means the world to us that we have you guys and that fan base and that support. So, I did a play with Tom Hiddleston in 2019, and after the show, every night after the show, Tom would say, "Oh, I saw some Save Daredevil t-shirts out there tonight." 1, 2, 3, go!
But it didn't end there. I was so insanely hyped after the panel by just being in the same room as Charlie Cox. So I decided to buy an autograph from him, which let me be in the same room as him and have a conversation with him one-to-one, just me and him, which was insane. I didn't film the entire thing as it would have been super rude to just shove a camera in his face when we were just talking to each other. And to be honest, I was way too hyped to be thinking about that at that moment. Like, I was literally walking up to a booth, and inside that booth was actually one of my favorite superheroes of all time. But I did manage to film a few seconds of him signing my Spider-Man X Daredevil comic. And that is when something really interesting happened. He signed my comic, he saw it, and then he said that it was one of the best things that he'd signed that day. The comic said on it, Spider-Man X Daredevil, and he said, "We'll see if I'm in that movie." I didn't prompt him to say this at all, by the way. I was just showing to him. So I said to him, "Are you talking about Spider-Man No Way Home?" And he said, yes.
Charlie Cox just signed this. I'm gonna blur out my real name. Sign that they put Daredevil, who's put his signature. I didn't even ask him about that, he just said it himself, but yeah.
Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. It was a ton of fun to make and was an insane time. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.
No, you can take selfie. I'll take it. He's so popular today, look how happy he is. Oscar. Oh my god. Oh my god.